Blame for Being Alive, I've always found to be one of the more pointed titles. But then it's kind of almost immediately contrasted by the very, very first lyrics of the song have a romantic feel to it. What's that about?
Blame for Being Alive, it's actually, it's based on a couple of different things, but it was most specifically lifted from a book of Jacqueline Rose, who is she's still alive today, but a philosopher, psychoanalyst, psychotherapist. She wrote a book called Mothers, which is like really good, but I can only recommend read that book yourself because it's a great book, but it sort of highlights the fact that Western culture, because ever since the Greeks, we have not been able to properly think about death. Like the fact that we are embodied beings in mortal vessels. And since the Greeks, there's been like a flight away from that. We want to think about, the immortality of the soul. We want to think about the afterlife. We want to think about like, when I shed this inevitably mortal being, I will still exist. Instead of like all of that Western tradition of not being able to properly think about death has translated through patriarchal culture into a blame of the body on femininity. Because, and like you can go back to the myth of even Medusa too, this first record, but like the idea that Medusa turns you to stone, earthen, petrified, frozen, sort of like reified being, as opposed to the dynamic, moving life of the soul. Circe turned men that were entranced or charmed by her into animals, because the whole Greek idea, like, oh, if you give into your desires, you're basically no better than a rock, like, for fuck's sake. There has been a long tradition of, instead of trying to think about the fact that we inevitably die, we place that blame of death disproportionately on women, because the whole task of giving birth and therefore giving a body to any person is ultimately through the straits of pregnancy and birth. It becomes easier to sort of like blame your own mother for giving birth to you, as if being born is a death sentence, which, yeah, in a certain sense it is, but like it's a complicated song too, because like it's rolling with still a lot of like sort of the dialectic of enlightenment themes that we're working on other songs, but like thinking about the specifically feminist implications of that. But also, like, we're a band full of cis dudes, so like, how do I write feminist lyrics into a death metal song that's being performed by cis dudes without that being its own kind of special form of mansplaining? Well, the idea I came up with was sort of, and I've done this in other songs, of like, trying to talk from like the perspective of the commodity, or the perspective of, in Dante's Inspiration, it was the perspective of that tortured seat of bourgeois individualism, rather than just critiquing it from an outside perspective. I take what is called the immanent critique, to look at the inner dynamics of what's going on and show exactly what is pathological about it by its own logics, and to explode those logics, to take those logics to their extreme. And so what I did with the Blame for Being Alive was, in many ways, just like, how do I sort of give a voice to something that other people may have been proud about in their process of, just being a real man or something, and show exactly how unhealthy it is. Which is why, like, the beginning of the song sounds romantic, it's jazzy, it's like trying to, but it's the entire time, it's in, like, it's asking another person to sort of be a puppet for them. It's trying to like fantasize the position of another without even knowing that other, and then going as far to say like, oh, you'll be my entire world, but you don't even know them at all. That is the pathology of like, you know, like unreflective masculine desire, we can call it. Just men can lend women their unconscious in the process of trying to analyze them and rediscover it themselves. So they think like, oh, look at this thing I found, but like meanwhile it was always your own problem. And so like the whole ideas of throughout the song, the obsession with death, the obsession with immortality, the obsession, that all goes back to like just a poorly thought out masculine desire of like wanting to be in control, wanting to dominate other people, and not being able to just accept not just other people, but also like your own death, your own mortality. Like that song, realistically, I had more allusions and more references in that song than any other. And like I think that too is like a mark of like I was worried about writing that song. But like I wanted to have, you know, the feminist song on the record. Like I wanted to like, but also like it's very involved with like I was reading a lot of like post-Lacanian feminist theory and critical gender theory. Like it's something that like I knew like really applied to myself as well, but I had to like go through the auspices or the distancing clauses of referencing a lot of other, like that song, and all like the same with self-effaced, like a lot of sort of like dense references, a lot of dense allusions, just because like I wanted, like, because it's a complicated song and it's a topic that's still open, and I don't want to pretend like I am giving a final say on it. Like I'm just trying to communicate a whole bunch of things that like I came across and that I want other people to know, and for that reason too, like please fucking read like Luce Irigaray, the Sex Which Is Not One, Jacqueline Rose, Mothers. That book is great. Also, Sexuality in the Field of Vision, but unfortunately that book is very like dense with Lacanian references. Like that's a book that's hard to digest unless like you know other ones. But Mothers is much easier. Even like Simone de Beauvoir's like Second Sex. Like these are all like not incredibly surface level, but like I'm not going to give an entire like you know reading list, but and Judith Butler's Gender Troubles too. Like it's definitely not definitive, but like if you don't know any of these works, and I'm speaking to an audience of death metal listeners, so like just think about these things, just try. It'll make your own life better.
That's a good spot for me to cut and go get another memory card for the other cat.